This is the Super League Timeout Podcast. With your hosts, Michael Hansen-Morris and Jess Smith.
Hello, and welcome to episode 19 of the Super League Timeout Podcast. And yes, this really is episode 19, despite what Michael Hansen-Morris said at the top of last week's podcast. However, today we are joined by a very special guest. We have JC of Volleyball England fame. So if you look at any of the Volleyball England socials, if you're watching the Super League Lives, opening weekend, Final Fours, Cup Finals, pretty much any sort of big Volleyball England event, this is the man that runs everything somehow and keeps it all together. Welcome, JC.
Unless you don't like any of it, and then it's definitely not me. If you see me in the street, it's not me. Thank you, Jess. Obviously, after Mikey mucked up the podcast numbers, we've had to give him the sack. So you're stuck with me this week. Hopefully just for this week, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
I'm glad you've told everybody because I'm really looking forward to sacking you after this podcast is over, and then we can start again. So the expectation is that Michael will be back next week, but we have loads of action to get through from this weekend just gone. There was a Super League Live, which hopefully a lot of you guys watched or attended in person. There were plenty of other matches across the league, and we do have an interview coming up for you with a couple of folks. So, talking about that, let's start with Super League Live, which was an exciting weekend at the Score Leisure Center in Leighton. So we started out the day with Richmond Docklands taking on the University of Nottingham. And in this match, this was a almost must win for Richmond. Unfortunately, in the end, for them, they fell 3-1 to Nottingham. So it was 23-25 in the first set, 28-26 in set 2, 18-25 in set 3, and 21-25 in set 4 for Nottingham to finish that out and get themselves in a much more comfortable position in that Final Four ranking. So, JC, we were both there. What did you think to the match?
Yeah, I think it's great that this is the week that I'm on. After doing 2 Super League Lives in a row, we've got another one next week in Essex, which should be great as well to kind of round out that Super League Live kind of cohort. I think it was, like you mentioned, it was a bit of a must-win for Richmond. At one point, especially in that second set, it was maybe looking like it could be 5, possibly, or maybe Richmond turn it around with a bit of motivation. I know, speaking with kind of Freddie before the match, that they've had some injuries. Connell Kane not being there is always a bit of a struggle, but I know when you kind of interviewed our MVP for the game in Finley, he really stepped up. And I think I'm sure a lot of people have seen the clip of him with the one-handed block on socials, which as soon as that happened, I was hoping that at least one of the media people that Side Out brought along had got it. And I think that really showed the maturity and the kind of control that University of Nottingham have got. It is a university team. It's quite a young team. If you look at it kind of in comparison to, say, Durham, where a lot of their students are master's students. I know Freddie likes to bring in students that are kind of first years and grow them throughout that program. And you start to see that a lot now with kind of Rob Morgan really stepping up this season in general. And then obviously Finley coming in and just kind of running the show a bit. I know looking at his stats, he's got from there, if I even can read them, like 6 kills, hitting 400, 2 big blocks, but was also a bit of a defensive monster as well. I think it was great for them. Maybe not as much for Richmond, but yeah, I guess it's interesting to see it that way.
Yeah, definitely. It was a weird match. I mean, we talked a lot during the match about the number of service errors. So there were 40 in total across the whole of the match. So fairly even between the two teams, 22 for Nottingham, 18 for Richmond. But it felt like a bit of a weekend of the errors making up some of the gap between the two teams, because I agree with you, Nottingham had a great performance this weekend, and it was just the number of errors that kind of kept Richmond in the game at times.
Yeah, I think we see that a lot in the men's game in general. Obviously, the week before at Essex, I know you and Mikey spoke about it in the pod as well. Last week with MAAREE Essex, there was another, probably I think it was over 40 errors as well. And I know there is that kind of side of high risk, high reward. And you look at some of our biggest servers in the league, you look at your Nathans, your Toms, you look at your Matty Edwards that are hitting balls really hard, but it's then how many times is that paying off? How many times is that resulting in an ace or resulting in a out of system pass that is forcing them to send over a free ball or just kind of scrap about, which then instantly puts you in the better kind of in the hot seat, I guess, for attacking that ball. I think it's, you look at someone like Artemi as well. It's interesting to see him back, obviously after his kind of 4-match suspension. He's not changed. He's still hitting balls really hard.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned, and you'll probably speak about it, is that one that Ollie Quick dug up. If the roof was a little bit higher, we're thinking that's almost a 3-point pass. But yeah, that man's shoulder, I'm not sure how it survives, but it's great to watch someone like that that's so athletic. And again, kind of there is that good camaraderie now, I think, in that Richmond side because they know they're in trouble. They know they're at that bottom, that they're in that automatic relegation spot at the moment. But you saw that with kind of Jelani and people like that, the younger players also stepping up. And Jelani's a great prospect for the future. I know he's off to the States next year for uni, but he's I guess he's every coach's dream. He's a lefty. He's tall. He learns really quick. I know he's only been playing volleyball for about 18 months, and it looks like he's been playing for far longer.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, so explosive, and you could even see like during the match the way that he was adapting to different situations. Good that you mentioned Artemi, who was indeed back. Um, a bit of an interesting one for Richmond. Obviously, they lost a couple of players back in January. They've been adapting. We've seen some new things from them. But even with Artemi back playing against the Nottingham side that has had a bit of inconsistency this season, it's interesting to see that they weren't able to at least take it to 5 and get a point out of that one. So
Yeah, I think if they'd got a point, it would have made it even more exciting for the kind of, I guess, if you're looking at the league as kind of the bottom 3 maybe, and then the top 5, similar to in the women's. It is those kind of 3. I know Essex are there to maybe, like, if results really don't go their way, they're maybe in a bit more trouble. But I know if they win a point in the next couple of games, they kind of secure Super League for next year.
mhm.
It's kind of tricky to see that though with Richmond after taking Durham to 5 sets in opening weekend, then kind of not hitting that same form. And I know you mentioned that it was your kind of prediction to have them in your final 4, but now they're kind of bottom and they're really struggling for points. But I think there's still hope for them. I know they've got a bit of a trickier run in. They've got some tough games coming up, but yeah, you never know. I think that's the enjoyment of Super League this year. And as an outsider myself, having never played volleyball, I'm quite open about that. But I think it's an exciting league that a lot of people can kind of see the appeal of now. And I think that's come across in the teams, but also it's come across in what I've seen on socials from my side of the job as well. But yeah, coming up against Essex in a couple of weeks that's probably the biggest crunch match, and then they've got MAAREE in the last day of the season. Again, both games at home, so kind of factoring in travel, and if Essex get a good run in Bucks, they've got a semi-final in a couple of weeks. It could be a tough game for Essex as well, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's still lots of movement that could happen, like you said, in those kind of bottom 3 spaces on the men's table. So that was the fun match to watch to start the day with. And then we had a bit of a shock as we headed into the women's match, where we saw Team Side Out Polonia, who I think Michael and I said during last week's podcast that we expected this to be relatively straightforward for Side Out. There was some concern because we have seen some inconsistency from them as well. But Leeds women are, still bottom of the table. They've picked up, they had picked up a point heading into this match, but they haven't won yet this season. We know that they're young. We know that they're still learning, and we've definitely seen them develop this year. But I don't think anybody saw a 5-set thriller coming between these two teams.
No,
So it
definitely
started
not.
out, yeah, it started out largely as we maybe thought it was going to. So set 1 was 25-12 for Polonia. And then set 2 was 23-25 Set 3 was 24-26, so Leeds just holding on to that one. And then in set 4, 25-22, so still relatively close. And then Polonia did close it out in the end, 15-11 in that fifth set, or 15-12, depending on who you ask.
Yeah. I mean, at least the scoring wasn't too different this week. But yeah, I think it is a shock. I agree. Just because of how kind of experienced side out are, what they've done in the last couple of games as well. There was that kind of big 5-setter they had recently against Essex, and it's interesting. And I'm sure he'll agree. I've never seen Mark so animated on the sideline. I know he's a very kind of passionate person, but there was a big amount of frustration there, and I really appreciate. And a massive shout out to Side Out, a massive shout out to organising the Super League Live. It's the first one we ran in London outside of Crystal Palace. We're obviously at Cobham the week before, but that's Surrey, so I'm still counting this one as the first one outside of Crystal Palace in London. Yeah, it was a great kind of setup. It was great to see so many volunteers there, a lot of his juniors helping him out. It was great to catch up with him as well before the game. And I think, going into that game, it probably would have been expected it was going to be a 3-0 win for the Side Out, and they then finished the weekend second. But I think it was also kind of a real testament to Leeds of how much that team's grown. And I know we mentioned it kind of, you mentioned it a little bit on the live stream about how they've only travelled with 7. And I know when you chat with Holly after the game, how it was kind of the expectations of a lot of them are going into exam period. So, and she mentioned how volleyball is a hobby. And as much as we kind of are pushing for that level of kind of professionalism to come up, we are massively kind of respectful of that. But I think it's a huge testament to Leeds of you've got a player like Perfection that's played in the World Championships for Spain, hitting 25 kills against some of the best players in the league and who have done it time and time again. And she's just on another level. You've got Daniela, great British athlete that, again, will go really far. 11 kills, and then Olivia Cuthbert. Again, a player that's kind of maybe has kind of gone under the radar a little bit, but has had some consistent games, putting in 12 digs, going up against Grace Hazard. Again, and I know you mentioned it, one of the best middles in the league. And when she was firing, she's unstoppable. And Grace is that kind of formidable force out of the net. But the ability for those kind of 16, 17, 18-year-olds to really put up a fight and take Side Out to 5, I think it's great. And it shows the growth in the league. And I guess it's a really good testament to the future of volleyball. It's just, it's a shame that it's come late in the league for Leeds, because it could have been quite an exciting battle in kind of that kind of 4th to 8th place spot. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I think we've talked a lot about the way that Leeds has been, how they have approached the season for both the men's and the women's team. They're leaning really heavily into that development program they've got. We know that they have a huge junior program, and it's great to see them coming through and playing in the Super League. It's at this moment, it still seems unlikely that they'll stay up this year, but I would expect them to bounce right back up from Division 1 the next season if they continue to perform at the level that they are right now. But again, I have to say, from a Side Out perspective, and you mentioned that Mark was super frustrated and animated on the sidelines, which is, I completely agree. It was the errors. So of all of the points that Leeds scored in this 5-set match, 39% of them came from team Side Out errors. That's a big chunk. That's probably enough to have pushed them into taking it to 5 sets. So rather than Polonia being beaten by Leeds in those 2 sets, it feels more like they beat themselves. So
yeah.
But on the flip side of that, it puts them in a tough position to retain that space in the top 4 in the lead up to the Final Fours.
Yeah, and I guess we'll go on and speak about it, but I see where you're coming from with that of like even just 23 attacking errors. It's a lot. And again, that might be because they're trying different things. I know Mark played pretty much his whole roster that weekend as well. We saw a lot of substitutions come in. Pretty much everyone got some court time, which is great in terms of squad rotation, trying to keep people fresh. And I know they've probably got one of the hardest run-ins for the next couple of games. They've got Essex this week at Super League Live. They then got MAAREE and then Essex again on the last day of the season, which those 3 games are massive. They have to win those to get any chance of going into Final Four now. And obviously what's happening around them with some great wins that we'll go on to talk about for Newcastle. It's really opened up that kind of 2nd to 5th position in the women's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But it was certainly an exciting match to watch, and it was a really great day out. Yeah, it was fantastic venue. It was nice to have Polonia hosting that, and they did a great job of organizing everything. There were some fun little things that they had going on in the venue as well. They had some games between the sets, and they had these handy little QR codes with the team rosters on, which we thought was a really good idea. So we might be stealing that one. But so
Yeah,
that
it's really
was
nice touches from side up.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Josh as well. Did really well on the mic. Definitely a career in emceeing there.
Always exciting. Okay, so let's look across the other matches over the weekend. So things kicked off on Friday with a double header at Newcastle. So Newcastle women took on Essex Rebels women and won 3-0. So great result for Newcastle. That was 25-23, 25-20, and 25-14 for Newcastle. So relatively comfortable. Essex did rest a couple of players, but that doesn't mean that they put out a subpar team by any means. So huge performance for Newcastle there.
Yeah, I think we saw it a couple of weeks ago at Super League Live when Newcastle kind of, I guess, upset Essex at home in a 3-1 victory for the Knights. I think it's shown again, I know I'm saying it, but that growth in that team of they had that setback and a lot of people kind of saying, oh, they're probably going to go back down with that 3-0 loss to MAAREE, where it looked a little bit kind of a team that were some great players, but maybe weren't cohesive yet. But you can see that again from a university team where they've maybe only had a month or so to train together. They might have had a Bucks game and that's about it. And going up against them who were the Super League champions in MAAREE, it's a tough first game, but you've seen that growth. And you've got Caroline moving from libero out to outside and got 2 MVP votes this weekend. You've got Jenna Vask, who is one of the most athletic players I've seen. Great opportunity, like great kind of hitting ability, but also really good at the net in terms of blocking. And then you've got Renee, who I've put up a lot of compilations of clips of her on socials because she's an absolute highlight magnet. She hit 7-7-8 this weekend, seven kills from 9 swings. I think it showed again, especially against Essex, that there was a battle at the middle, but Renee was just there again. And I know she had a massive game against them down in Essex where she hit almost 600, I think, with 16 kills and was just an absolute machine. And I think it's now really put them in that title contention spot. So it could be a really interesting game.
Yeah, definitely. Then the Newcastle Knights men performed a similar feat, beating Essex Rebels men 3-0 across 25-15, 25-18, and 25-15 for those 3 sets. So pretty dominant performance from Newcastle, who I think now have put themselves at top of the table, even if it's temporarily, because I'm pretty sure that London Giants have a game in hand on them. But we've seen, Newcastle Knights on both sides of the league kind of in the ascendancy over the last, 2 months or so now. So it's been exciting to see.
Yeah, I think one thing that showed this weekend, because Knights then obviously played MAAREE as well that weekend. I think, so people may not have seen, but Ledders got injured on the Friday night in the first set. And then Hayden stepped in and really stepped up, claimed 2 MVP votes again for the weekend. I think it shows the depth that Sam Shenton's got in his squad. I know last year when James had a similar injury, it was a bit tricky and they struggled a little bit in terms of that offensive that weapon. But it shows that he's now got that depth that people are kind of able to step up and move into that place. You saw a couple of weeks ago when Angus the libero was out as well. They've got those people they can rely on, that it's not just a kind of someone will do. It's they know they can step up and they want that court time. And I know from speaking with Shent quite a bit that it is a very competitive gym to be in Newcastle, and everyone's fighting for their spot. And I think Hayden really kind of put himself in that position now where I'm not sure how long Ledders is out for. It could be the rest of the season, depending on how bad. It was an ankle injury, so it could be for the rest of the season. It could be a couple of weeks. We're not sure. But it then questions, does Ledders then start again? It creates a big problem for Shens, but it's always a good problem to have when you're questioning which player you put in rather than, oh, I need to put together 6 and 7 people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's really great to see because I think it's a good testament to the development of the league overall because we've seen even like last season teams struggle because of injuries or just having thin squads to begin with. That towards the end of the season they were, like you said, almost trying to figure out how they could field 6 or 7 players at a time. So it's just, yeah, it's a huge turnaround from last year. But yeah, the other Saturday matches were London Lionhearts versus Dark Star Derbyshire. So this was a big match, not from a result standpoint so much, more around this is kind of a preview of what's potentially the women's relegation playoff match. So this weekend, Lionhearts lost 0-3 to Dark Star with 23-25, 16-25, and 16-25 across those 3 sets. So again, like sets 2 and 3, that's a big performance from Dark Star. You can see that they're kind of doing something similar to last season where they're really fighting here at the end to get themselves not relegated. Do we think they're going to hold on this year?
Yeah, it's tricky to kind of see. Obviously, Dark Star have had some good results. They've kind of taken sets off teams that maybe shocked the league a little bit. And you've got kind of Hadja that's on top of our kill leaderboards that is always that kind of valuable weapon. And you've got Alice as well playing, and Alice has been passing extremely well this season. But I think it in a kind of in contrast to what we were saying about Newcastle, their squad depth's not massive, and you had MAAREE playing in libero this weekend as well, so there's no Lindsay. So it shows again, MAAREE outstanding player, GB player, but it's that kind of thing of you're relying on your coach to come in and play, and it's always a struggle. But again, MAAREE had a great game. I know got the MVP vote from Lionhearts, which is nice. I think she's quite high in our leaderboards because of the game she's played in MVP and got MVP votes. So that's always interesting. But yeah, I think it's hard to see. You never know at the end of the day. The playoffs could throw up some things, but it's interesting to see how Lionhearts have struggled this year with the loss of players like MAAREE. Obviously, Mash has stepped away a little bit as well. So she played a bit in the first front part of the season, but has kind of stepped away now. And it's sad to see that something like that a team that was really high up there were beating teams and taking big points off who were champions last year, competing in the Final Four, now really struggling to play at that level. But I don't know. I think there's obviously a great pool of players in London. There's a great opportunity in London for players to get involved in Super League. So I think even if Lionhearts do go down, I think they'll be able to rebuild quite nicely and kind of push for that promotion spot in Div 1 South.
Yeah, definitely. On the men's side of the table on Saturday, we had Durham Palatinates men take on MAAREE Eagles men, dropping all 3 sets as well, 23-25, 22-25, 16-25. So important win for MAAREE Eagles. After having a little bit of a wobble recently, I think this is one of the teams that Michael had said he's slightly worried about heading into the last few matches of the season. But they're looking like they're going to hold on to their Final Four position right now.
Yeah, no, they've secured their Final Four spot, which is great. Don't know the seedings yet; it's still kind of up for grabs. But yeah, I think again, it's a tricky team to see. You know what you're kind of up against when you play MAAREE. You know you've got your Nathans. You know you've got your you've got a great offense. You've got Ryan Dixon coming in. It is interesting to see Ryan playing in Durham again after a year away, and it's interesting to have that kind of. And I think that's what's made the men's league super interesting this year is anyone can beat anyone, and you've seen that with Leeds beating Essex 3-0. Durham could have caused a really big upset and opened up the Final Four spots massively this weekend, having Essex and MAAREE. Obviously coming off a bit of a tough loss to Essex in midweek in Bucks. I know one of those sets was a massive set. It was, I think, 38-36. So it's a draining time and it's a lot of traveling, and that's obviously not going to help them. But I think it's hard to see now Durham not kind of surviving and having to go into the playoffs. I can see that happening quite easily.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been struggling a bit. I know they've had some injuries, some big injuries for them that have kind of held them back. But I think this goes back to something I said a couple of weeks ago, which is if your big injury is one player, surely you can fill that spot somehow. So that was Saturday. I have missed off one match, and I will explain why here shortly. But on Sunday, we had Newcastle Knights women take on MAAREE Eagle women. So huge 5-setter in the Northeast, with MAAREE taking the first set 16-25, then back to Newcastle 25-20, back to MAAREE 12-25 in that third set, but Newcastle turned it around in set 4, 25-18, and then closed things out 15-12 in set number 5. Big performance.
Yeah. Huge. I think I would argue this is the game of the weekend. As good as side out Leeds was in terms of kind of shock factor, I would argue this is game of the weekend. Two hugely explosive teams, hugely competitive. We know that it's always it's a struggle going up to the north, especially for London teams. It's a long journey. If people are getting trained, if people are sharing cars, it's always a struggle. And it's a busy weekend for MAAREE, having to take on Durham and Newcastle, two really tough teams. Playing them on a Sunday after playing Durham on the Saturday is always tough as well. You've kind of got to battle that fatigue side of things. But again, some massive games, massive plays from the Knights. I think as well, it kind of goes back to our point of Knights now are that kind of formidable force that maybe were a bit of a dark horse at the start of the season, but now it's actually, maybe it's kind of woken up and rung some alarm bells for people, because they go, actually, if they fit in that kind of second, third spot, that's a really tough game at Final Four. That's, again, maybe one of the games of the weekend. If that's a Newcastle MAAREE again, or if that's a Newcastle Essex, what happens? What does that look like? A Newcastle side out could be as equally exciting.
Yeah.
Obviously, side out beating them 3-0 last time. Again, factoring in that travel, we know Newcastle will stay for Final Four. They'll stay overnight. They'll come down on Friday. So travel is less of an issue. I think it makes Final Four, and get your tickets now, get that plug in. If it makes it really exciting that it's kind of anyone can beat anyone in that kind of those playoff, in those semi-finals on Saturday. And I think no matter what happens, people will be happy that they've made it to Final Four just because of how competitive the season's been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. On the men's side for the Sunday matches, we had Durham Palatinates men lose out 1-3 to Essex Rebels men. So that was 22-25, 24-26, 25-21, and then 18-25 in that fourth set. So important for Essex after they had that loss to Newcastle on the Friday night. They're not in the most advantageous position right now. They do still have one game in hand on University of Nottingham, who's 4 points above them in the table, but one game in hand with a 4-point difference is not great. So it'll be a question of what happens when these two teams meet each other on the last day of the season.
Yeah, I think that game could decide Final Four, but it also may be decided by then. You mentioned the game in hand. It is against Giants, and when they played them last time, it's a 3-0 win for Giants. And this means no disrespect to Essex. I don't think Giants really broke a sweat. It was a very kind of using their height, using their power, really kind of just showcased why Giants are the reigning champions. I think on the other hand, though, it is a huge win for Essex, now being 6 points clear of Durham. That game in hand over Durham, okay, again, it's against Giants, but I think it's a great opportunity for them to. This year's been a weird year for Essex, for men, especially with coaching changes, the loss of Alex Porter, who's kind of the Mr. Essex that would run everything, would sort everything out. And I think Ewan's filled really big shoes and is doing a really good job at filling them. but also he's got multiple pairs of shoes on at the moment. He's got coach, he's got captain, he's setter, opposite. That boy likes to play everywhere. And it shows, but it's also when you're trying to win games, and you saw it in Bucks where he was on the sideline for most of that game, for that game in against Durham. He's able to see the game and he's able to call timeouts and maybe call the timeout a point earlier or get a substitution in if someone's maybe their head's dropped a bit. I think that's where Essex have started to thrive a little bit more. And we saw it in I saw it in the quarter final against Coventry and Warwick Riga in the cup. Ewan took himself off for a bit and just was talking with his stats and was just watching the game and rotating people in and seeing what people did. So yeah, I think that's a great thing. It's just I would be surprised if Essex fall into that playoff spot. Now they're kind of 6 points clear, but you never know. Things could change. A couple of injuries or a big kind of couple of games in Bucks could really knacker them out, and then they could be in trouble for their last couple of games of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like they're in an okay position to likely clinch that sort of safety spot in position 5, but that, yeah, you've nailed it. There's so much. It's quite tight in some places in the table, so it could happen. Anything could happen at this point. Elsewhere on Sunday, we had London Giants taking on Leeds, and another interesting turn of events as Leeds took one set off of Giants here. So Giants won 3-1. It was 24-26 in that opening set, and then Giants seemed to get their head screwed back on, and it was 25-16, 25-23, and 25-14 to close out that match. So set one a bit of an interesting moment, but sets 2 to 4 kind of going maybe more as people would have thought. But I think that one set for Leeds could be important as we go into the last couple of games, because it might mean the difference between automatic relegation and making the playoff place to try and stay up, which is not a position that we thought they were going to be in after opening weekend, I don't think.
No, I mean, even kind of 3 quarters into the season, until they got that win over Essex, and all of a sudden kind of made you kind of look up and go, oh, actually, something could be happening here. I think it's great that, and it was nice to see them on Saturday coming along and supporting the girls. I think that kind of really boosted the girls as well on Saturday against Bologna. It was great to see Josh, Max kind of cheering them on, getting a bit rowdy, getting a bit kind of high energy, which you love to see from the kind of the junior side. It's a busy year for Leeds. It'll be interesting to see with some of their players moving off into uni, kind of hitting that kind of 18-year-old bracket where they're now moving into uni. It'll be interesting to see where they go, kind of post Leeds, but also how Leeds kind of fill those gaps with people like Emmanuel. You've got Max, you've got Josh, and people like that will be moving on soon. It'll be interesting to see what Leeds do if they do stay up. Nelson's obviously their main man. He is their kind of, you've always got those kind of talisman in the league where you name them and you go, oh yeah, that's the person that's going to win you points. I think the thing that I always like about Nelson is his leadership. He's the nicest, humblest man you'll ever meet in your life. Always will find time to speak to you, always shakes your hand, always says hello to you. But I think that leadership role really pays off for Leeds. He's someone that all the boys and the girls look up to. He's had that experience playing pro overseas, but he's also not let that get to him where he thinks he's better than anyone else. He will tell everyone what they're doing great and will show them and pick them up when the things are hard. And I think that's what's helped Leeds, is they've had that belief, and now all of a sudden they're pushing for that position where they might not go straight down. And Richmond are now in that position where you go, oh, actually, makes it a bit more exciting.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and this was like, the one match that nobody expected Leeds to pick anything up from, in the last couple. So well done to them for taking that first set off of London Giants. And then the last of the men's matches for Sunday was Newcastle Knights taking on MAAREE Eagles men, and they took that one 3-1. So it was 25-27, 25-22. I've got a score backwards somewhere. That's good. One of these is the wrong way around because I've got 4 lots of 25 first. So that's definitely not right. So one of these sets is backwards, but I don't know which one it is. No, I don't. 25-27.
Two
There we go.
seconds on time.
No. It's the first one. I just don't know how to do maths. So 25-27 with MAAREE taking the first set, and then Newcastle taking the subsequent 3, 25-22, 25-19, and 25-22 to close it out. Good wobble for Jess. Yeah. So again, we've talked a few times about Newcastle already. They had that big win over Essex on the Friday night, and they're kind of continuing that upward trajectory. MAAREE, on the other hand, seem to be having a little bit of a wobble. Not a massive wobble, but they're not as stable as we tend to see them.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from. I think it's interesting, obviously, having this game at opening weekend and now seeing it at the end of the season is quite a nice comparison. Might even do some stats on it. Might even do a post about it. Who knows? More content for Super League channels. But I think it's interesting to see that, and you look at how Newcastle are playing now. But I think it's also maybe MAAREE know they're pretty much safe in Final Four. They've got their spot now. I think, again, it's that travel side of things. It's, again, going back to what Holly said, it's everyone's doing it for a hobby. Everyone's doing it for the love of the game. So it may be that, okay, let's go to Newcastle. Let's have an enjoyable time up north. Let's get 3 points off Durham. That is maybe more of an achievable thing. And then see what happens at nights and see what happens there. I think the one kind of big stick out thing for me there is you've got the battle of kind of the opposite. You've got Nathan and Kelechi going up against each other, and it's kind of, and not to age Nathan, but it's whether Kelechi is now going to be stepping into those shoes for Nathan when he finally retires and his shoulder finally gets a bit of a rest. But yeah, I think seeing those two, again, massively explosive, massively kind of athletic people going up against each other is always fun to watch. And again, this could be the semi-final in Final Four, could be the final. Again, I think that's what's made this league so exciting this year is we still don't know. We're 2 games away from the end of the season. We don't know who's playing who yet. We know that Durham on the women's side, that we'll get into in a bit, have clinched it, but who knows what's happening below them.
That was a perfect segue into what I was going to touch on next. So we have skipped 2 matches that we've not talked about the results for. So just briefly, Durham Palatinates women took on MAAREE Eagles women on Saturday, winning 25-21, 25-18, and then 25-11. And then on Sunday, took on Essex Rebels, winning 25-22, 25-19, and 25-22 to really close out a pretty dominant weekend. And as you mentioned, they have clinched the regular season top spot. They're definitely going to be that number 1 seed. We don't know who they're going to be playing against on the Saturday at Final Fours, but we're confident, obviously, that they're going to be there. So, but yeah, great performance again from them. I still think they're a bit unstoppable. I don't see a world in which they're going to lose out on that gold medal match, I think.
Yeah, I think something would have to go drastically wrong, or a team would have to watch a lot of film and work out what their systems are. But we've seen it that they've got offense from everywhere. You've got Izzy Decker, you've got Narera in the middle, you've got so many people. You've got Ellie Schrader. Like, I'm naming their whole team. Like, their whole team is an offensive weapon. Even in defense, they're picking up every ball. And I say this, they're a scrappy team, but they're not. They're picking up everything, but everything's a perfect pass. Everything is going in a way where it's usable. And even if it's not perfect, you've got a pair of setters in Malaya and Elena that are just great and will use it and know they've got the trust on the wings or even in the middle that they can start putting some things out of system, and they know that someone's going to connect with it. And from being at a few Durham games, you know when the girls connect with it, they're connecting. And it's being hit hard. And we had a floor explosion at Cobham, but I'm surprised Durham's floors not covered in craters this year, because that at Bucks and then also in Super League, it's, I would not like to be a volleyball at Durham this year.
Maybe they'll be the first team to somehow explode one of them. And I can't believe you didn't mention the fact that they've got 2 players that are top of the blocking stats for the season as well. I mean, what do you do against a team that's got amazing setting, incredible attack options, great defense, and then all of a sudden comes in and says, oh, and before you can get to all of that, you have to get past this wall first.
Yeah, it's incredible that I know we spoke about it, and we've spoken about it kind of off the podcast and in our communications kind of behind the scenes, and that's what I love about my job is I chat to loads of people. But and we knew that Durham are coming in with a stacked roster. We saw the player announcements in off season, and I was always going on to Volleyball. I was looking at where they'd played, I was looking at what they were doing, and I think that's the draw now of the league. We've got to that stage where people want to be involved in it. And obviously there's benefits of going to a university and playing alongside that, of getting a master's or kind of accelerating your education there. But also it's making the league more competitive, and it's making it a much more fun environment to, I guess, compete in. Again, I can't say that as a non-player, but from what I see, that players are loving it. The interaction we get on socials is great. And I like the competitive nature on and off the court, where people are sending me clips and saying, "Oh, can we post this? Can we post that?" And I encourage that because it makes that kind of rivalry in a good way as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, to learn a little bit more about that and get some insights into how exactly they did it, we're just going to go ahead and have a chat with Chloe Thomas and Elena Bulmer. Now that we've just spoken about Durham's dominant performance at the weekend, we are joined by Chloe Thomas and Elena Bulmer today. Hello, ladies. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So it has been a massive journey for you guys. You've now won 12 matches out of 12. Slightly bumpy start to the season at opening weekend with that reverse sweep against Dark Star. But since then, it's been smooth sailing. And I've said a couple of times on the podcast, actually, you guys look unstoppable right now. So what do you think has been kind of the lead into that? What are your strengths? How did you come together as a team? And I don't know, absolutely crush everybody in the Super League this season.
I think the biggest strength probably is our very stacked roster. We've recruited a lot of people this year from various places. All of us basically played college volleyball in America, which is also, I think, a huge advantage. We're all really experienced players who played really hard, tough seasons with many games. So I think having a stacked roster is our biggest advantage. We can sub anyone in. Anyone is going out there and doing their best and helping us perform so consistently. So I think that's a big strength. Also with the many recruitments and the big roster, our practice performance and level is just really high. I think every day we're challenged. We're challenging each other in the positions, in the lineups. As I said, anyone can go out there and win those games. So I think just having that competitive mindset in our everyday practice really helped us to stay consistent in that level and perform so well in all our games so far.
Yeah. No, that's really good. We've heard that from a few teams this season. A lot of teams have fairly deep rosters this year, so there's a lot of competition at the trainings and for places on the court, which is really good to hear. But you guys, so you've talked a lot about how you are on the court and at practice. Do you have a good relationship outside of the gym as well?
Yes. We're all roommates pretty much. We all live so close to each other. After class, we'll go hang out before going to next class or going to practice. We keep in touch. We got the group chat that is for way more than just volleyball at this point. So yeah, we're definitely super connected on and off the court.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. So culturally, Elena, you mentioned that a lot of you have played university ball in the US. Has that meant that from a system perspective, it's been easy for things to kind of fall into place this year?
I can see that definitely. I think we play I would say American volleyball. We play with a lot of speed. We have a very physical team. We have really strong high hitters. So I think that's definitely a point or something that we learned in the States over the 4 years we all have been there and kind of brought to England here. And obviously we also try to make our own mark. So I think we're still adjusting and finding our own rhythm and dynamic as a team. But I definitely say it's influenced by what we all experience and learn in the States for sure.
Makes sense.
Do you think it's quite hard coming into that then? Obviously, you've all come from different programs and everything like that, but also yourself, Elena, being a setter, trying to connect with that team. How quickly did that kind of connection start? And is that mainly just through training? Was that also, obviously, Jess mentioned the kind of rocky start at opening weekend. Do you think that throughout the season, especially playing Bucks as well, that's really progressed and now you're kind of firing on all cylinders, and now we're leading into that kind of crunch period of the season, you're at your kind of pinnacle and your peak?
No, yeah, totally. I think that's what, like, I mean, as a team in the beginning of the season, that's exactly what you want to establish, right? You want to get to know each other and like get the dynamics going and like kind of get the flow going pretty early on. We had like 2 or 3 weeks of just practices in the beginning of season, which was really nice, where we could just focus, like no school, no nothing. We could just focus on practicing and getting the reps in. And I think we did pretty well on like adjusting and making changes where we needed to be, especially after opening weekend. So I think it was honestly a really good thing that we kind of had a rough start there, because it was kind of a reset for us and it showed us like what we can work on. Um, and I think throughout, obviously, like we had such a busy season, but it was also a blessing because we really got to have so many game reps, so many sets that we could just try out things. But I wouldn't say we're at the peak yet. We still have like a couple months to go, and we want to be our best in the Final Four, and also the Bucks final in the Cup as well. So I think we're definitely like working towards our peak, but we are not gonna share all our secrets or weapons yet, I would say. So
Ooh,
Yeah, that's
exciting.
fair enough. Yeah.
Speaking about
You mentioned
weapons, yeah, go
you go,
ahead.
Jess.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
JC.
I was going to say, you mentioned the triple there. Durham did it a couple of years ago when they won Bucks, Super League, and then the Cup. Do you feel that within the team now, that is the kind of aim, and that's kind of, it sounds weird to say, but like the bare minimum, because of how well you've performed this season, that if you don't end up with silverware, you'll be kind of disappointed in yourselves as a team?
I mean, we're always going to stay humble, but we do have high expectations of ourselves for sure. Yeah.
yeah, and I think we see that it's definitely possible. And I think, well, as athletes, if you don't go into a season wanting to win it all, I think then like what is the purpose of doing it, So we we had that expectation or that goal from the start. I think now it's like easier to reach, and it's more our focus, like game to game, obviously, but it's more coming more into focus the further we go into season. So I think, yeah, definitely that's the expectations, and we're doing all that we can to get there. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've talked about the fact that you guys had quite a dominant performance. So 12 wins out of 12 puts you as officially the normal season champions, which is an exciting thing to be already. I know you've got a couple of matches left, but you mentioned as well, Elena, weapons here recently. So Chloe, from your perspective, what do you think it is that makes you guys so effective from the attack line?
I think something that's really great about our team is whenever we had those first practices at the very beginning of season, we didn't try to sit there and have this like team identity. We really just learned what each other could do and made sure that everybody's abilities and talents and little quirks could show up on the court in every aspect. So I think we have a lot of players that play different positions or can run multiple different things. So with the connection with the setters, we didn't want to, break anything down or try to have, oh, this is what we do. We are a combination of what everyone can do. So I think it's kind of always a surprise. I know I feel like we have shown so much, but we still have so much in our back pocket. That'll be a surprise when we have those really, really big games. But yeah, I think we're just beautiful. We have so much to offer, and I love that we all value what each other brings to the table.
Yeah, looking at kind of your stats from the weekend, especially against MAAREE, like it in a way, it's interesting that no one really hit higher. You had Izzy hit the highest with 7 kills, but then the kind of kills are spread out across the team, which really shows, like Jess was saying, the range of weapons. As a setter, how is that kind of enjoyable for you to have so many different people to go to, and no matter what kind of, if you're out of system, if you're passing in system, that that there's going to be someone on the end of that ball hitting it extremely hard, as we've seen on socials and on live streams and things like that?
yeah, I mean, it's super fun. I think like each week we kind of adding on to stuff. I think especially in the last weeks we worked on establishing the back row and the middle out of transition much more, which is really fun just to have this like fourth attacker from the back row. which makes us like unpredictable. And I think as a setter, especially just knowing that I can go to basically anyone and I can really have fun with like playing combinations and using every hitter I have in like their best ability, and just like that reassurance that no matter who I give the ball to, like they're gonna put it away. I think that's something every setter dreams of. So it's been super, super fun, and I'm very grateful for everyone who like puts the work in every day. And like I said, like we're still working. So we're still not there yet, but it's been really, really fun. And I think you can tell when you watch us play that we're having a lot of fun with just like how we run our offense. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say fun's definitely the word. I know MAAREE is always in our comments and the socials as well, kind of shouting you guys out. And I've seen her on court as well, always bringing that energy. You mentioned you've got a great kind of camaraderie off court as well. Do you think that's helped by playing Bucks as well? Obviously, it's a heavy season for a lot of uni students in terms of you've got Bucks on a Wednesday and then normally a Super League game as well on the weekend. Do you think that kind of those long journeys, maybe on the coach, but also just kind of being in the gym and together so much has helped you do that? And I guess maybe a bit of like avoiding that kind of homesickness feeling as well for being so far away from home.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely a little family here. And I like how you mentioned the bus rides to and fro from London, those 6 hours with 6 or 7 other girls in the bus. It really is magical. Like the team chemistry has grown so much. Even if it's bonding over our legs being cramped up in the car, like little things like that, when you like think about the memories that we're going to be making when we're done here, I think even if we do win it all, those little moments are probably going to be our favorite. So yeah, 100%.
Who's in charge of the music on the journeys down, or has it changed?
Ooh.
It changes. Sometimes it's Ross and Welshie, are our coaches, because they're gonna stay locked in, I guess.
Yeah.
So that has been led to a couple like arguments, but we'll give them that, I guess. So that's okay.
Yeah, I guess if they're driving you, you've got to kind of compensate a little bit and be
Yeah.
a bit. Who's got the better playlist out of Ross and Welshie?
Ooh.
Putting you on the spot now.
I would say, I think Ross plays some good music.
I was going to say, I think
Yeah.
Ross. Yeah. 100%. And I think
Yeah.
I've been introduced to like a lot of the English like kind of folk music.
Yes.
It's kind of good. Yeah. It's very enjoyable.
But
So
Ross also plays like funk sometimes.
yeah,
And it's like
it's everything.
It's everything.
Yeah.
So Ross, like for everyone, like something's there for everyone. So I guess we'll go with Ross on this one.
Yeah.
Fair. Sounds like you guys have a lot of fun on the road. I suppose now looking towards the Final Fours in the last couple of matches of the season, is there anything that you guys are focusing on? I know you said you didn't want to give away too much in the last few matches, but is there anything that you're focusing on, specifically to try and improve on?
I think the hardest part is like being so consistent is like kind of staying like that and every day like showing up in practice or in games. So I think even the games where it seems easier, just like being really mentally locked in because it's such a long season. And for most of us in America, at least, the season goes from like September till December. So it's way shorter and it's kind of easier to like stay locked in there. So I think the biggest challenge for us right now is like keeping our level every day we step on the court, and just like staying consistent, especially in our strengths, which have been like serve receive, and then side out percentage and all that kind of stuff. So I think just staying consistent with what we've already been working on or what is good right now, and just continuing to like perform and kind of putting the performance on. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned kind of Final Four as well. You've secured the top seed now, so it's going to be against that fourth place position. So I guess out of those, we've got kind of 5 or 4 others fighting for it. So there's those 4 below us that below you that are kind of going for it. Who do you want to face in that semi-final at Final Four? Or is it kind of you're happy to take on anyone because you've beaten them already in the regular season?
I think we definitely would be cool with anyone, but I think the Battle of the North is always really fun. Maybe we should say that for the final. I don't know. But I think Newcastle is always a really, really fun game. So I'm most excited to play them that weekend for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. My dad always used to say, like, at the end of the day, if you want to win, you have to beat them all. So honestly, like Chloe said, it doesn't really matter. But I agree with that. I think Newcastle has been recently like played really well, and we've seen them beat really good teams. So I think it's exciting to play them on Monday, but then also maybe playing them in the semifinal or even the final. And then hopefully being the champions of the North, or then overall, obviously. So yeah.
I remember going to the when you played them at home for your game start of this year as well, and how kind of the energy was really good on court, and it was a really competitive match. And I know there is that kind of rivalry now between kind of Durham and Newcastle, and that is shown in Bucks as well. Do you think having that kind of that local rivalry really helps you as well to try and keep each other pushing for the next level as well? You see Newcastle step it up a bit more in the last couple of months as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's really good having someone so close, like someone that we play so much because of Bucks, like you mentioned, that is really, really competitive. And it's always just really good camaraderie with that game. We have most of like fans and like family coming down for it because it's so easily accessible. So I think the environment is really similar to, I guess, for us playing at American schools for so long. It's really, really close to kind of what we feel at home. So it's just always really a fun game.
You done? Are you
No,
thinking?
joking. No, you go.
Okay. Sorry. So I feel like that's the end of the questions.
I had a
Um,
very important question, which I think
Yes.
the viewers at home would be interested in. And I know I mentioned this to you a little bit, and I interviewed at the start of the season a couple of your male teammates in Sean McQuiggan and Matt Edwards. And the big question I asked them was, what's their meal deal? And as kind of people from outside the UK, a lot of people might not know what a meal deal is, but you've now been here for kind of 7 months or so. So what are your go-to meal deals?
Ooh.
So I have to say, like, I'm really boring about like eating. So I think my meat is probably like the most boring one ever. I'll usually get like the fruit, but as a main. So I have like a lot of like a big fruit bowl there, and then I'll take like a coffee or like protein shake or something, and then just have like a snack. Usually it's like carrots with like hummus.
I like that one too.
So I feel like it's very boring, but that's just what I like, unfortunately. So nothing crazy on my
I mean, it's
part.
healthy. It's healthy.
I will say there's closer to me, there's a Sainsbury's and a Tesco. So I always go for the Sainsbury meal deal. But they have this like basil pasta that I'll get as the main, and then I'll also do fruit, usually like a little mango or something. And then I love orange Lucozade. I love it so much. I'm so glad I discovered it. I'm gonna miss it if I go home. I love orange Lucozade. It's so good.
What even is it? Is it like
It's like Gatorade.
oh okay.
Kinda. Yeah.
Is it the Lucozade
Mm.
Sport or the Lucozade Energy? Is it the one in the red bottle or the one in the blue
The
bottle?
sport. Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say because the other one is like a fizzy drink, and personally, I think it's one of the most heinous things to ever have been invented.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I'll stick to the sport. Thank you.
Yeah, because the Lucozade Sport, you're right. It's very similar to Gatorade, so at least it's like a mini taste of home, right?
Yes.
Right. Now that you've answered that really tough question, I'm gonna put the pressure back on you. So now we're gonna do our little, we call it the timeout tangle. So it's just 30 seconds of rapid fire, one or the other type questions. Say whatever comes to mind first, and yeah, let's see how we get on. You guys ready?
Are we doing it at the same time?
Yes. And you
Okay.
can both just shout out an answer. It's fine. And if the answers are different, that's also fine. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, here we go. Do you prefer the morning or the nighttime?
Nighttime.
Yes.
Okay. Would you rather block or have a really good defense?
Defense.
Clock might be like, yeah.
Fair. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Tea.
Okay, splitting it down the middle. Would you rather go skiing or surfing?
Surfing.
Okay. Would you rather watch a movie or a TV show?
Movie.
Movie, I agree.
Okay. And would you rather be a zookeeper or a librarian?
Librarian.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Interesting. Serve or receive?
Sure. I don't know how to.
Yes.
And cats or dogs?
That's fine.
I like both, but I'll go with cats.
I'll go with dogs. Balance it out.
Okay. So a good split decision right there at the end. So
Yep.
thank you guys for participating in the timeout tangle.
Thanks to you. That was fun.
Oh. I loved the facial expression from JC when I asked if you would rather be a zookeeper or a librarian.
Surely a zookeeper's. When I was younger, this is now a bit weird, but I always wanted to be a zookeeper when I was younger, and so being a librarian just doesn't do it for me. I'd always zookeepers seem more fun. But
I get that.
Understandable.
I'll ask some questions to each of you guys. So
Well, thank you guys very much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your time. And again, huge congratulations on being the regular season league winners. And we'll see you at Final Fours.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having
Yes, thank you
us.
for having us.
Thanks again to Chloe and Elena for having a chat with us, giving us some interesting insights into what happens on the team and telling us whether or not it's better to be a zookeeper or a librarian. And if you missed that,
I still
please
think it's a zookeeper. Still think it's a zookeeper.
I don't know. Depends on if you want more chaos or more calm. So if you want to know their answers, please rewind if you've missed it. So talk about this weekend. And this weekend is not a very busy weekend. However, it does give us an opportunity to insert another Super League Live. And I know, JC, you're super excited about this. So on Sunday at the Essex Sport Arena, we will see Essex Rebels men take on London Giants men at 2 p.m. I'm sure there's tickets on sale. Please do go and check socials, check the Essex Rebels for tickets if you want to be there in person, or you can catch us on the Volleyball England YouTube channel, probably from about 1:15-ish. About
Half
45
one. We'll go
minutes.
half one. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in
Mike
there.
can talk, but not 45 minutes of Phil.
I don't know. It's a big day. So Essex versus London Giants. We've just talked about all the results here not too long ago. We've talked about how this is going to be a tough match for Essex. Is there anything that we think is likely to happen? I mean, home venue, big crowd, Super League Live. Does that change the dynamic any?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jinx it, because I guess you guys last week were talking about how side out leads would probably be the way that we'd expect it to happen, and side out would win it 3-0, and then look what happened. We were there for 2.5 hours of volleyball, 3 and a bit hours of live stream. It was a great game, but I can't see it going the way of Essex. Obviously they've got home court advantage and everything like that, but I think Giants are such a big team. Like, they're such a offensive team. I think they're a hard team to beat when they're in system, when they're passing well. I know Dorian last week passed really well when they were playing Leeds. I think as soon as you get to that stage where they're in system, they've got their front row that are all well above 6'4", 6'5". It's hard to block that. It's hard to defend that. It's really hard to take that. And even if the service pressure comes strongly from Essex, I can't see it going the way of them. So yeah, for me, it's a 3-0 Giants win, which then will move them back to the top of the league. But we've seen crazy things happen this year. It could be the resurgence of Essex and could cause a big upset. Giants may travel light. We never know. We don't know until we get there. But I don't know. I still think it'd be a good game. But yeah, Giants in 3.
Definitely. If Essex can happen to pull something out of the bag, that might help them secure a spot in Final Fours. They're currently in 5th, just behind University of Nottingham, with a 4-point disadvantage, although they've got one game in hand. So if they can close that gap a bit, maybe. We'll have to see. So exciting nonetheless. But the big headline for that Sunday Super League Live is that it's International Women's Day. So we're very excited to announce the Essex Rebels women will host Team Side Out Polonia for their Super League Live at 4 p.m. Again, do check if you want tickets to be there in person, or you can catch us live on the Volleyball England YouTube channel. And this is an exciting match because this will be the first time these two teams have met in the league this season. So right at the tail end of the season, all of a sudden, they've got two matches coming up.
Yeah, I think whoever did the scheduling, great, makes it even more exciting. But I think as well, from having watched the game, so I went down for the Cup quarterfinal, 5 sets of some of the best volleyball I've watched in a long time. Really competitive. The ability on both sides of the net was extremely good. I know it was, I guess, a tough result for Essex after dominating so well in the first set, but I think it sets up a really good run-in for both teams of if Essex win this weekend, it's really tough then for Side Out to get that Final Four spot, I think, with where they are at the moment. But on the other hand, if Side Out cause a bit of an upset, it's hard. They've then got Essex on the last day of the season, and between that they've got MAAREE. So it's those top teams that we spoke about earlier. Of all of those teams are bidding for a spot in the Final Four. Sadly, It's called the Final Four. It's not the Final Five. So there is going to be a team that misses out. But yeah, it's a tough game for both.
Oh yeah, I mean it's going to be really tight. We've got Polonia, just for reference, are in third right now with 22 points, with Essex in fifth on 20 points, and Newcastle are in second with 24 points. So the point spread, to say that we have 2 matches left for most teams, with the exception of Side Out and Rebels right now, it's so tight, and we still don't know. We mentioned we don't know what the seeding is going to be for Final Four, other than the top spot for Durham, and we don't know who's going to be the 4th or 5th place. So, there's a chance that Side Out, MAAREE, or Essex, one of the 3 of them is maybe not going to make it.
Yeah.
We'll have to.
I mean, even Newcastle might not make it.
Yeah, that's true.
It would be tricky for Newcastle to be in second at the moment. It'd be tricky, but you never know. It's Newcastle have got Durham, so with the form that Durham are in at the moment, you would be surprised if that's some points for Newcastle. And then they've got I think they've got Leeds on the last day of the season. I'm probably wrong with the other.
Oh, Dark Star. So if they don't pick up any points between now and the end of the season, in their last 2 matches, I should say, then yes, there's definitely a chance that they miss out on Final Fours. Interesting set of scenarios. We'll talk about that more in depth next week. But yeah, exciting to have a Super League Live on International Women's Day and to watch some top class volleyball.
Yeah. I think when I posted about the Super League Live, I did it with the kind of meme of not another one, because this is the 3rd time it would have been at Essex. But I think it's a really great venue. They always, for me as an external, it's great for me to go there. They're always very welcoming. They help me with my setup, which makes my life much easier. But also, every time we've been there, it's been good games. They always try and get a good crowd in. It's always nice to see them put on that showcase. So it was a bit of a no-brainer when I spoke with Deanna about it, of kind of featuring it for International Women's Day. We want to have that headline game for that kind of that spot in Final Four of some of the best female athletes in the league going up against each other. And I rarely say this about Super League Live, because I normally want to go home after a long day. I would quite like 5 sets. I've now said that, so it'll be 3, but 5 sets would be lovely.
I would be surprised if it was 3, especially after what happened in the Cup quarterfinals. Because, these 2 teams are so tightly matched right now, and they both had some incredibly epic performances. They both had a little bit of a flop at a couple of times. So, if they all show up, wanting to play their best, feeling their best, then, we're in for a real battle. And I think that Polonia as well, after what happened this past weekend, will be coming out with some fire. Although that being said, we might still also see some fire from Essex after their losses to Durham and Newcastle at the weekend. So everybody's coming in with a little bit of a sting. So it's just who has the bigger fire burning in their belly on the day.
Yeah, there's definitely some kind of licking of wounds and trying to regroup. I know that Chinners would have had them in the gym early, so like Mark would have been kind of talking to his team, trying to maybe not kind of critique and just try and see where they can go from there. Is put it in the past. They can't change anything about it now. They knew that it was going to be a hard time, especially for Essex up north. 2 massive games against Durham and Newcastle. I know that obviously they've got a very stacked kind of last end of the season as well with Bucks as well. I know Alex Ginnery's pushing for that kind of Bucks title again, trying to go back to back after last year's success. But yeah, it's hard. But it's hard for all uni teams, and Durham is one of those teams as well that's showed that their depth has helped them a little bit more, especially in those Bucks games. And then side out's a different story, I guess. You've got players that are coming in from long days at work. You've got people that are going straight from work, straight to the gym, finishing at 10 o'clock, getting home at 11 o'clock, waking up the next day. And it's that grind that I think really makes the league what it is as well, is you've got people that are putting in hours and hours of effort that are trying to be better and better. And there's teams now in the league that are pushing that standard even higher. And that's only going to make it more enjoyable for us as spectators. And for me, for clips on socials, I'm going to keep loving that growth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And it is definitely going to make for an exciting Final Four in April. So 12th and 13th of April, right? So get your tickets if you haven't already. They are live on the Volleyball England Volley Store. So yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up this episode. Thank you, JC, so much for being our guest.
Yeah.
Person.
I hope I haven't wound anyone up.
I'm sure it's fine. You should hear some of the things
We'll
that I
see.
say. No. Nobody's sent me angry messages on socials yet, so it should be hopefully okay. But yeah, thank you so much for dropping in. I know that you don't usually feature on the podcast, but you are always there in the background, forever sorting out things for everybody else. But we'll have Michael Hansen-Morris back next week. But I'm Jess Smith. This is JC. And yeah, thank you guys for watching the Timeout podcast this week.
You've been listening to the Super League Timeout Podcast, hosted by Michael Hansen-Morris and Jess Smith.